Hey everyone, I'm Zombie Bones and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, I'm Sam, an 18-year-old neurodivergent trans-mask artist who uses he/him pronouns. And on this channel, I make rant, redesign, videos, and really anything else art related that I feel like making. So if you're interested in videos like that, stay tuned and hit subscribe if you like this video. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first of the top 5 worst art advice that I've ever received is draw every day. See, I got this advice in the 7th grade from a friend, and she told me the reason that her art was so good was because she drew every single day. I want to add that she was an amazing artist. She doesn't post anymore, and we kind of fell out of touch, but she did make some very beautiful art. So let's talk about why it's bad advice. Like, we've heard artists complain about this advice on multiple videos before, and we have heard many artists tell you not to draw every day. You usually hear this advice from another beginner artist at the start of your journey, or you'll hear it from like an art teacher or something, because they usually have those everyday sketchbooks that you're supposed to fill out. But nobody who complains about it seems to get into why it's so bad. Like, I've seen some people get into it, but not everyone. So, first of all, it can lead to burnout. When you force yourself to do anything that you don't want to do, especially if you're neurodivergent, but really anyone, forcing themselves to do something that they don't want to do, when they're not in the mood to, can kind of burn them out. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, going to work, going to school, drawing, playing a video game that you're struggling with, but you keep telling yourself you have to beat, you're going to get burnt out with that thing, which is why a lot of students take mental health days. And I've also noticed that in the workforce, a lot of people will also take mental health days for the same reason. They get burnt out doing the same thing every single day, even when they don't have the energy or motivation to. So forcing yourself to draw when you're not motivated can lead to this burnout. Obviously, you can't just drop the art when you're not motivated if it's your job, or when you're making consistent content like I'm trying to do for YouTube. But if that's not the case, you should not force yourself to draw when you don't want to. Because if you're just doing it as a hobby and you have no intention of making it a career, it's just going to harbor your art skills, make you plateau, and make you just want to give up on art altogether. And besides that, you're not going to improve by drawing every day either, which is the goal of that art advice. The only way to improve by drawing every day is having a daily study plan. You won't improve much at all if you don't have one. And if you do, it will only be within your understanding. So if you're going to insist on drawing every day, make sure that you're studying specific things like anatomy, and don't let yourself get trapped in the bust at 3/4 or head-on perspective trap that I know that I and many others have fallen into. Like, here's some art of mine from like a little bit ago, just to show that like I had a lot of issues with anatomy and stuck to busts and half torsos. And make sure that while you're drawing, especially if you're drawing every day with the intention to improve, that you're looking at references. Because if you're not looking at references, you're not going to learn anything from just drawing over and over and over again. You have to look at references. And with that, that's the end of point 1. Let's move into point 2. So the next point is to learn the rules before you break them. I heard this over and over, but it didn't really hold me back until my 11th grade art class, which is where I started to hear it over and over. The art teacher insisted on us drawing realism and would make an example out of any artist who drew in a stylized way. I was mostly an anime artist at the time, or at least I drew anime-inspired art, and she hated that most of all. She told us over and over that we had to learn the rules before we broke them. What she meant was that we needed to know realism before simplifying. Now, this is great advice, right? At least part of it is, learn the rules. When drawing, you do need to learn the rules of art, at least the basic elements: line, shape, texture, form, space, color, and value, because they will help you improve your art and make art that is pleasing to the eye. However, you don't need to draw perfect realism to learn how to do them. I didn't like to draw realism and would often miss deadlines when it was required. My favorite assignments were abstract ones. This made me stop drawing altogether for a lot of 2021 to 2022 during the school year, because I was beginning to feel like my art wasn't good enough, because I stylized first, learned the rules later. And this wasn't the case. You should always draw what you want. Anime? Go for it. Western cartoon art? That's game. Semi-realism? Amazing. Realism? That's cool too. But you shouldn't be forced to learn realism to learn the rules, right? Because while you should know the rules, learning realism doesn't equal the fundamentals. They can be easily learned using reference and studying other people's artworks. Having to draw a style that you don't like, or having to study first, often holds artists back or overwhelm them. And if we don't give beginner artists the ability to explore their hobby while learning, they're just going to give up. I know, because when I was a kid, I kind of gave up at first after I thought that I had to draw realism and kind of hated it. But then I learned that I didn't, and I kind of stopped hating drawing and just drew whatever I wanted. And that's why, ever since then, I have been steadfast in the fact that we should let artists, especially beginner artists, enjoy their craft. Because if we don't do that, we're going to lose a lot of new and young artists in the process. Let's get on to point 3. This one's controversial, but stick with me. Number 3 is that tracing is cheating. I got this art advice a lot, especially as a young kid learning to draw, because I would trace things like Naruto, and a big one that I used to trace was Black Butler and Full Metal Alchemist, because those were my favorite anime when I was younger. Then I started tracing Death Note, and then when I was around like 17, maybe a little bit younger, because I just turned 18, so probably closer to 16, 17, I started tracing real life photos as pose references. And it helped me improve a lot, actually. My anatomy has gotten better. However, just tracing isn't going to improve your anatomy, and tracing is bad when you try to pass it off as your own. See, I had this friend in middle school and early high school who traced the Owl House and tried to pass it off as his own, and obviously he didn't get away with it because Owl House was huge in 2019, so... And it wasn't even the tracing that bothered me, it's the fact that he was an amazing artist otherwise, and that he would get confrontational when I would point out that he should be drawing his own original works because they're amazing, and that he shouldn't be tracing the Owl House because he thinks it looks better than his art, because his art was good. And tracing as a form of stealing is kind of bad. But, like I said, I still trace pose references sometimes because it helped me build a stronger understanding of anatomy. Now, when you trace them, it shouldn't be mindless. When I started tracing, it was pretty mindless. I was like 12 and only did it once or twice. I didn't understand how to use it as a tool and often hid it out of fear I'd get called a thief despite using references from drawing books or photos. But when you're tracing poses, you have to learn how to break them down into simpler forms like shapes, like I did in the background of this video. And while doing this, you can understand how certain things like the torso and hips interlock. And when I was learning to draw more muscular characters for my comics, I traced a lot of photos of bodybuilders, and it helped me understand it because I was breaking it down, like the muscle of like the neck going into the shoulder is like a triangle, and it really helped me improve, like I keep saying. It's why we shouldn't demonize especially beginner artists for tracing, because it helps. And you could also learn to trace using others' art with permission, to break it down and see how they simplify things. However, never post these and never claim them as your own. Just remember that anything can be a tool when used properly, and I will harken on this forever until I am on my deathbed, that you can use literally anything as a tool. Moving on to point 4. So, point number 4, the fourth worst art advice that I've ever received, is to never, ever shade with black, no matter what you do. Now this tip can be applied sometimes, but it falls flat when you notice graphic novels exist and manga exists. Now with manga, they don't tend to shade with flat black, they usually use screen tones, but with American comics, even ones that are in color, and American graphic novels that are in color, And in black and white, we notice a lot of blacks and whites. And although I personally applied this advice to my own style and tend to draw with a warm, hard overlay layer because a black shade tends to make my own stylized work look muddy if I do it in the way that I usually shade with overlays or multiply layers, it doesn't mean that a solid black should never be used to shade. It can be used in many styles that work. Monotone styles, graphic novels. It can also be used to deepen shading in really intense scenes. And it can be used for comedic effect too, like if the scene isn't as serious as the character thinks it is, or like it's a young child, you can use flat blacks to add a comedic effect. My favorite example of flat black shading being used well is The Walking Dead, which first was released October 8th, 2003, because I really like The Walking Dead. But my point is that a lot of styles use this black shading, and warding off young artists from using flat blacks can really hinder them, especially if they want to lean more towards a graphic novel style, which I wanted to do when I was younger. I wanted to lean more towards graphic novels like, you know, Superman and the Batman comic books and The Walking Dead. Now I aim for more of a semi-realistic, cartoony kind of style-ish. So it is different now, but my point is, like I said before, anything can be a tool when used properly. Last but not least, don't push yourself. Although I have said that you should have fun with your art, and I assert that, you shouldn't just stay in your comfort zone, especially if your goal is to improve. You have to push yourself to draw things you don't like drawing sometimes. Hell, you might not have fun doing that. Hell, I hate drawing bare feet, but I had to learn it because there are outfits where my OCs wear nothing on their feet in my work in progress comic. I also hated drawing hands, and now I have fun doing it because I learned how. You have to break out of your comfort zone and push yourself to improve. I encourage you to check out videos on how to improve the things you often hide or ignore by staying within the rigid comfort zone. A really common one is just bust up shots of your OCs at a 3/4 angle, which I drew Monica for this from memory, but that's besides the point. Now improvement can be done through many means. Like, there are a million different ways to improve, but none of them have to do with staying inside of your comfort zone. And when you look back and see how far you've come from making your improvements and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, you will surely be proud. I've heard a lot of bad art advice over my 10 years as an artist, and these were the worst ones that held me and others back the most. I really hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more of my content. Art question of the day: what bad art advice have you heard? Let me know in the comments below if you made it to the end of the video. It's been fun talking to you guys, but the video's coming to a close. I hope you guys have a great day, night, or afternoon wherever you are, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!